Hi, my name is Christian. Today we will talk about information technology to this TED Talk.
I'll make it all come true.
We are now about 20 years into a revolution in information technology in IT. And like any journey into uncharted territory, it's exciting and it's disorienting. It can be fun, it can also be very dangerous, right? And and it can be frustrating as we increasingly move away from a world of ink and papers so often. These new technologies don't seem to live up to their potentials. And we ask, like, when is it going to be easy? When is it going to be awesome, like it ought to be, right? The last time there was a revolution in IT was similar magnitude was so long ago that we forget that it actually involved technology. And the idea that I want to share is the perspective that we can gain on our present and the future of information. From looking at the first 2,500 years of information technology, which was a period when inconvenient technologies incrementally evolved to a state of perfection that was dominant for millennium. So this is an 1100-year-old manuscript. It is called a Venetus A. It's a hard-written book in ancient Greek. The text in the middle, the big stop, is the Alliad, and the text around the edges is a commentary on it. The state-of-the-art IT from the year AD 950, and I want to talk about some of the innovation that stood behind this technology package. So, this is an example of the earliest writing in Greek, and it's from about 1500 BCE, called the Linear B. Linear B was invented as an inventory management system for large enterprises, Bronze Age palaces. It was a technology for recording data about objects like that. This particular example is from part of an inventory of chariots in the garage of palace. It says there are a certain number of chariots, fully assembled, made in fancy way with ivory. Like a lot of enterprise systems, Linear B was not user-friendly, right? It had 200 characters or more. It was only usable by a few highly trained professionals. It took 700 years before the Greek got what Steve Jobs might have called writing of the rest of us, right? The Greek alphabet, when it came, it was awesome. 24 characters, super easy. All of a sudden, many more people were able to create, consume, and share informations. And with more users came more innovation, and particularly data storage. It improved. In the past years, floppy disks gave way to hard drive. Back in the day, broken bits of pottery and clay tablets gave way to papyrus. And as ever, if you give people more storage space, they come up with more information to fill it. First, written down versions of stuff that they'd been singing, like the Alliad. and later new categories of information that were created with the new technology in mind. Long works of history of science of theology. Now, papyrus comes in rolls because of how it's made. You carried an individual papyrus roll around in a little leather tube. If you had a bunch of them, you'd carry them in a bucket. You'd store them in diamond-shaped cubes. Singing, storytelling, lecture, these are linear processes, and a roll of papyrus was great for capturing that. For the first 1,000 years, reading was something you did out loud. A papyrus roll stores data that you read aloud, okay? All papyrus comes from Egypt. This could cause supply chain problems, so in the 3rd and 2nd century BCE, librarians, engineers of information technology perfected a new storage medium, parchment made from animal skins. It was more durable than papyrus. Sheep, goats, and cows could always be local sources. Parchment doesn't come in rolls. It comes in sheets because of how animals are made. For big data or bigger than one sheet, you could create an array by stacking a bunch of sheets up and sewing them together on one edge, thus creating a codex, or what we call a book. Now, codices were big, blocky objects. They heavier than papyrus rolls. None of your papyrus accessories worked anymore. But there were benefits to the new technology. For the first time ever, you had random access to your data. You could jump to the middle of the book without scrolling interminable from the beginning. And citation and cross references because possible instead of a cruel joke, right? With citation and cross references, you have books that can be talked to each other, like a relational database, or if you will, a kind of web of information. And this was a big deal. It can take a while, though, to fully exploit any new technology, and so this is from the 4th century of the Common Era. It's a folio, a page from the earliest complete Christian Bible, the so-called Codex Sinaiticus. And even though it's a codex, you can see that its engineers were still using papyrus thinking when they made it these little narrow columns of text. As if this was something that you read aloud as you were unrolling it 600 more years before they fully exploited the new technology. This is not a thing you read aloud from. This is a reference book. The scribe first recognized that texts could talk to each other and that you could put more than one text in the same book, even on the same page. And we can see other innovation between the 4th century and the 10th century. Spaces between words. Data scientists call this tokenization. As the world contained more and more things to read, people started reading faster, which meant reading silently. And white spaces between words was a technology that was invented to serve this new practice. Other ways of adding information to the page, but these pages have scoring on them. Before page layout software, before the printing press, there was page layout, and this book was deliberately planned on a grid. And the grid adds informations. It makes it clear what the main text is and what the second text is. You don't have to read Greek to see that some of the letters are shaped differently, right? The more blocky ones in upper corner are a quotation from the Iliad, and the rest of it in a different style of handwriting is the common on it. We're totally used to these small caps, boldface, italic, adding information to the words on the page, but it had to be invented, and it was invented by the 10th century. And then, barring in fundamental change for 1,000 years, not by 1580, not by 1780, and not by 1950. Okay, we got the printing press. Big deal. The linotype machine. Bigger deal. Typewriters, photocopiers, word processors, but these were all simply way of making faster and cheaper copies of the same 1,000-year-old technology that was very close to perfect for that technologies. Technologies go obsolete when they're at their most perfect, and they get replaced by technologies that are at the most they're ever going to be. It's been less than 20 years since we stopped assuming that utmost important ideas are destined to live on physical pages that look like the Venetus A. Alright, I don't know what the future will hold, but I am confident that we have not gone back 3,500 years in our information technology, and that with the help of vigorous criticism from technology skeptics and ingenious invention from technological enthusiasm, it won't take 2,500 years to reach another IT millennium. Thank you.